Does phantom laughter echo through this stately abode?
Who is behind the mysterious odors that linger on the second floor?
Who or what lurks in the shadowy basement?
Find out the answers to these questions and more as we uncover the familial hauntings and history from the Cheney Mansion in Jerseyville, Illinois.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Erica.
And this is The Haunted Atlas, a Haunted U.S. podcast. In the interest of fully exploring history of certain locations, The Haunted Atlas may discuss sensitive or disturbing topics. Listener discretion is advised.
In the small town of Jerseyville, Illinois, a one-of-a-kind tower looms atop the historical Cheney Mansion, acting as a beacon to its visitors. The mansion has nearly 2 centuries of history, with activity ranging from a stagecoach stop to a post office. Visitors can expect rich details on the home's history, but some may walk away with a first-hand account of the paranormal. Our journey begins in 1827, but the building that stood on that plot of land then actually looks a lot different than what it looks like today. It started as a small red building, eventually known as the Red House around town, and it was built by James Faulkner, a Pennsylvania native.
Oh, interesting. What was he doing in Illinois?
Building a red house, apparently.
And it literally served as a red home?
Yes.
Okay.
It started its history as a stagecoach stop and was actually the first frame house built in the town. And so frame house meaning constructed with a skeleton framework of timber rather than like a brick or a stone house where they don't have the wooden framing on the inside.
That's really interesting, actually.
Yeah, I was like, that's a super cool, first thing. So as a stagecoach stop, as well as a tavern, the building became a place where locals could gather to spend time with their community. And it became so prominent as this community center, the town's official name of Jerseyville was actually chosen in this red house in 1834.
Oh, wow. So it's very significant.
Yes, honestly, as soon as I heard that they had named it the Red House, it's kind of funny because if you look at European addresses, I know this sounds totally unrelated, but a lot of them in smaller towns are literally the street name or the number of the house is the red house on the top of the hill.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting that I think that doesn't really happen in America. And I think it was kind of cool to see that this was so prominent that that did occur where the post office probably knew the red house just from, you know.
It's what are you doing after work today? I don't know. I'll see you at the red house.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. Apparently, the town actually chose this name because of how many citizens were originally from New Jersey.
Wow. That's wild. So a Pennsylvanian built it and most of the people are from New Jersey.
Yeah. A lot of people were migrating.
What brought them there?
Maybe at that point, people were still trying to go further west.
That would make sense. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. It's the early 1800s.
Yeah, and so they were just kind of checking things out. So Dr. Edward Darcy was the person who bought the property in 1839. And he was a physician who was originally from Morris County, New Jersey. The public part of the building he turned into a private residence and then built an addition onto the home for his medical practice.
Okay, so still very prominent within the town.
Yes, but I did think it was interesting that the community center was kind of turned into a private residence, and I couldn't really find anything on it, but I was wondering the town's reactions.
Right, and how did it happen that he was able to do that? I guess once you buy the land, you can do whatever you want with it.
Yes, and as a doctor, I'm assuming had enough money to buy what would have been a community center.
That's a good point.
So Dr. Darcy's daughter, named Catherine, met a man named Prentice Dana Cheney, who resided in town. They fell in love and they married in 1859, which we love a love story.
Yeah, so 20 years after the conversion.
Yes, Prentice not only made a connection with Catherine, but he also went into business with Dr. Darcy, and they converted the medical office into a small bank.
Wild transition.
Very different.
So did Cheney have a history with banking? Is that why?
So I think they were both just looking, from what I could tell, because there wasn't a ton of why they turned it into a bank, but I think they were looking to make a lot of money. And at that time, banks were prosperous. But on that note, if you've noticed the year, we're getting close to the Civil War. Now, according to the Jersey County Historical Society, the Civil War caused people to remove their savings from local banks because they feared Missouri raiders would cross the state line to rob them.
So they're like, hey, we're going to get rich quick. I mean, the man that converted it to the doctor's office, he's getting older. He wants to retire, I'm sure, and not be practicing medicine. So that makes sense. And then, surprise, surprise, Civil War.
Yes. It could have been a disastrous business decision just based on this, but somehow their bank was the only one in the town to remain open.
Probably because it sounds like they just had so much faith in these people.
That's fair.
I mean, how are they going to defend against raiders differently than anywhere else? I don't know, but maybe some people just take it on faith that it'll be fine.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, maybe even location, like where the house is in the town. Maybe it was like further back, safer.
That's true. Or maybe if they lived on site, that was an aspect to it, they could more readily defend it.
That's actually a good point. Because honestly, you think about, I feel like at that point it was pretty common for doctors' offices to be in their private residence. But I don't really know too many banks that had like a private residence attached to it.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Because they were the only one open, they got extremely rich during the Civil War. And they invested a lot of money into expanding the estate. And this is when, between the 1860s to 1900, the Red House became the Cheney Mansion.
And became not red.
I would assume.
That's really interesting. And it's kind of a cool concept because the family structures were so tied together back then. So it's cool that they're kind of building this wealth as a family, expanding it into an estate that can be passed down.
Yeah, it is really cool. And I mean, they really made themselves like prominent members of the town.
Yeah.
It's cool that they kind of like put roots down to stick there. Now, after 1900, I feel like the important parts of the history passed pretty rapidly until we get to 1967. To just go through some dates. In 1900, Prentice Cheney passed away. After his death, his only surviving son, Alexander, was unfortunately committed to an institution because of his struggle with addiction. In 1912, Alexander would have a son of his own, naming him Prentice Dana Cheney, or more commonly referred to as PD Cheney.
That makes sense.
Now, PD unfortunately suffered from the same addictions that his father had, and it drew negative attention from the townsfolk of Jerseyville.
What type of addiction did they struggle with?
They both struggled with alcoholism. The mansion was actually robbed in 1967.
Because they thought it was an easy target?
Yes, the thieves stole over $60,000 worth of family heirlooms. And at this point, PD was ill and likely couldn't do anything to stop what was happening.
That's really unfortunate. It's like the long-lasting implications of the addiction.
Yes. And I'm just hoping that he was upstairs and like unaware of what was happening, like asleep.
Yeah, and while $60,000 is certainly a lot of money, it is very saddening that it's the family heirlooms because we know that this has been in the family for years, since the early 1800s.
Yes.
So to lose all of those items, that shouldn't happen to anyone.
No. And unfortunately, PD passed only 2 years later, and he left the mansion to his wife, Edith. She remained in the mansion for 20 years until her passing in 1989.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it wasn't until 1998, so like almost 10 years later, that the house finally sold again.
So it was just stuck in estate then?
It was just kind of sitting there.
Wow.
No one was really living in it. And it was sold at an auction, and the buyers donated it to the local historical society.
Oh, that was really nice.
I know. I thought the same thing. You know, we hear all the time of like family members donating things to the historical societies, and that's incredible. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But for someone to buy the house and immediately donate it is really, really cool.
Yeah, but I also wonder about what an undertaking it could have potentially been if it sat vacant for 10 years. I mean, 10 years isn't a ton of time, but in that time, things like the roof could go, especially if it's not cared for, it could just degrade.
Yes. Today, it's home to the Historical Society, and they've kind of added a historical museum into the building.
That's really cool. So it's their office building and a tourist attraction?
Yes.
That's nice.
Now, with all of the history that occurred on this plot of land, from the first Red House to the robbery of Cheney Mansion in 1967, it's unsurprising that visitors to the now historic museum often report occurrences of a supernatural sort.
Hey guys, I'm Tommy from Tommy Cullum's Let's Get Freaky podcast, where we talk to real people and have real conversations about paranormal experiences, including ghosts, cryptids, UFOs, and all high strangeness, and even a little bit of conspiracy too. So if you enjoy these freaky conversations, check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And we're also available to watch on YouTube. Tommy Cullum's Let's Get Freaky.
Given the long history of the Cheney Mansion being a family home, it's no surprise that some of the family members linger, even after death. The first that we'll address is PD Cheney, and he's often spotted in his old room. I think this makes a lot of sense because we know that he was ill for a few years, and he likely spent a lot of time in that room. Plus, it was his childhood home, so it makes sense to me that he would spend a significant amount of time here and his afterlife.
Yeah, I think there were both, positive and negative, intense emotional ties to this place.
Absolutely. And when he is seen, he's seen as a dark figure at the end of the bed, but he also interacts with the room in other ways. He's said to sit in a chair and rock it, causing it to look like it's rocking on its own. Additionally, people report hearing his breath in the room, so like hearing someone breathing.
That one is scary. I have so many questions. One, when he's standing at the foot of the bed, is like someone laying in the bed, or like are you just standing in the room and you can see him at the end of the bed?
You can just see him at the end of the bed.
Okay, because I was going to say, what if he's like standing over, like, please get out of my bed?
No, because since it's used as primarily a museum,
yeah,
I don't think anyone would really be laying there.
I don't know that this is at all true, but didn't people like in the past stand and have their servants like undress them?
That's a funny notion, but PD was in like the 1950s and 60s,
my God,
right?
that's so modern.
I was like, I don't think so, Erica.
I keep thinking everything's in like the 1700s.
Well, I mean, it is kind of confusing because there's the first PD and then there's the younger PD.
That's true.
So,
maybe a caretaker.
That's a great idea. Or maybe his wife even.
Oh my God, yeah. That
if
could
she
be
had
true.
to help him.
Yes.
That's interesting.
I mean, the breathing, when you take it out of context, is scary to just hear someone. But like, he probably is just breathing.
Yeah.
So like the figure at the end of the bed to me, because the other two seem so like him just going through his daily activities. I was wondering if that was somehow part of it.
That makes sense. So you're saying this isn't his behavior as a ghost. This is just his behavior.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I wonder if it's not an intelligent haunting then, if he's just kind of going about his day.
That's true. And so like in that case, the breathing would just be random.
Well, I think, alcohol is a depressant on the nervous system. So I wonder if it's like gasping breath, like he potentially could have been struggling to breathe, even if he had illness that was more tied to alcoholism, like liver cirrhosis or something like that.
Yeah.
As your organs shut down, I'm sure that it's not necessarily just like us breathing, but it could be an ill person breathing.
Yeah.
However, we know that PD also spent time in the spare room, which was nicknamed the drunk room.
Oh.
Edith would sometimes lock him here while he was intoxicated. And it seems that his spirit is more aggressive in this room, so stay with me here. He physically interacts with visitors here. People report hair pulling and even being grabbed for multiple minutes at a time. And to me, it seems like his spirit in this room is embodying how his life would have been in this room. He would have been drunk, potentially more aggressive when he's drunk, more sporadic with his actions. And that kind of goes along with what you were saying about his bedroom, where he's just acting as himself, not necessarily as a ghost. This could be true of the drunk room as well.
That's true. Honestly, I was going to ask if you thought that maybe he was drunk and that's how he was acting, because physically moving and hair pulling and kind of being grabbed for minutes at a time, maybe he's trying to get his balance.
That's interesting. Or I was thinking even just to try to get attention, maybe to be like, hey, let me out of the room or something like that. Or just the sporadic activity of a drunk person.
Yeah.
It could be. People also report the smell of vomit here. While we do know that scents can linger in materials, especially porous ones, I cannot imagine that a historical society would let the smell of vomit just exist in a room.
That, and this is a super unique haunting.
Mhm.
I don't think we've heard about this in any of the sanatoriums we've covered or the prisons that we've covered, which arguably there was likely vomiting occurring at those places. And so if this was common, I think we would hear about it in more buildings.
That's a really, really good point, actually. And again, this just seems to go along with the events that would have happened in that room. I mean, if you are an alcoholic and very intoxicated, unfortunately, a side effect of that can be vomit. So I'm sure that happened in that room.
Yes, and because Edith placed him in this room, I don't think it was cleaned very often either.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good point. If he's in there for like 10 hours until he sobers up, I mean, I don't know. I'm throwing out a number.
Right.
Then it could have been that he had to sit with that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
PD isn't alone. And it's interesting what you said about the caretaker because his nanny remains.
Oh.
And it's almost like she's still looking after him, even in their afterlife. Her name is Miss Dorothy, and she is associated with other phantom smells than the vomit. Much more pleasantly, she is said to carry a floral scent, specifically lilac.
I feel like when you're talking about your childhood, like caretaker or nanny, smell is such a powerful thing.
Mhm.
Like there's someone that I work with that has the same perfume as my 4th grade teacher. And I know that for a fact because like I remember that perfume so much. I feel like we're almost experiencing what PD experienced.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, the distinct smells, because the other scent that people say she smells like is talcum powder, which used to be used to help change babies' diapers and stuff like
Oh.
that. So that makes a lot of sense. It kind of takes him back to that childhood era.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting to me is, again, skeptical of scents because they can linger in things. And these are more pleasant scents, so they wouldn't necessarily be as hated
Right.
by the people that are there now. I was wondering if, because he manifests in so many different areas of the house, if this is instead PD kind of like projecting his childhood.
That's a really good thought.
Because like you're saying, you can remember a distinct perfume. He can probably remember it. So are we really experiencing Miss Dorothy, or are we experiencing Miss Dorothy through PD's eyes?
That is really interesting because that's almost what I was saying is like us experiencing Miss Dorothy is like what he's experiencing.
Yes.
That's such a good thought. I don't know how his spirit is working in this house. I don't know if he's freely roaming, if he's in the drunk room. It seems like he doesn't have full choice in where he is because I don't think he would choose to be there. So I'm wondering if this is like almost like a palate cleanser.
Interesting. Yeah, it almost seems like PD is stuck, I'm going to say, in the house, reliving different aspects of his life. It's like childhood, midlife when he was in the drunk room, and late in life when he was in his bedroom ill.
Yeah.
Now, I know I said, I wonder if this is through PD's eyes, but Miss Dorothy does appear in another way. She is said to pick up after children. So if there are toys or items left out in her room, she's said to move them and put them away.
That's so sweet.
I know, it says specifically balls are her favorite, like toy balls.
Oh.
So that's really sweet that she will like try to organize and pick up.
Yeah. Is this an intelligent haunting or is it just people going about their dates?
Yeah. Again, it could be, but it almost feels like different timelines, kind of, even though this is the same spirit, it does to me feel like it's segmented.
Yeah.
There are also unidentified ghosts in the mansion. On the first floor, there's a ghost that roams the doctor's office and vault. So that kind of crosses the two different time points. Yes, it was still the same family, but the two different purposes that it served. And the spirit is said to be male. People think that it's a young boy because many people report that this is a playful spirit who will pull people's hair. Now, running with this PD theory, do we think it could be him?
Maybe the office looks enough like it did when he was a kid
Mm-hmm.
that he's drawn to it.
Maybe. Or I wonder if it's just, this is a cool space.
Yeah.
And I'm a kid and I would want to experience it. If you had a bank vault in your house, that would be somewhere you would want to play.
The other thing I was wondering is, like, was he one of the original Dr. Darcy's patients?
That's an interesting theory. I think I automatically assumed he was part of the family because the other hauntings are so tied to the family, but he doesn't have to be. He could have been a patient, or he could have even been the child of a customer at the bank.
Yeah, that's true. And just like, because, you know, like I think at that, I used to go to the bank with my dad like every Saturday. That was a thing.
Yes. Or stay with me. We could go even further back and he could be at the community center.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good thought.
I think there's a lot of possibilities with him. We would definitely need to know more information because the fact that he's pulling people's hair doesn't really give him a time period differentiation.
No.
Yeah, he could be from any time. Additionally, the first floor is haunted by a woman's voice and laughter. This seems to echo through the whole first floor. People say it kind of sounds all-encompassing. Some say that when they hear it, a woman is seen on the staircase here. There are also reports of footsteps on the staircase that sound to be heading both up and down at different times. So she's traveling through the house, seemingly, or at least up and down the staircase.
Yeah.
And it does make me wonder if the male child and this woman are related somehow, like it's a mother-son duo.
Well, yes, because if she can see into the doctor's office from the stairwell and her laughter does not sound like an evil laugh, like it's like a regular like laughter, you know what I mean? Then it's almost like the child like pulling hair is like the child like messing with people and her laughing.
I see. That is a good take. Or I guess it could be PD and Miss Dorothy, just in another way.
Yeah.
There are a lot of possibilities with these hauntings.
Yes, especially the unidentified ones. And it's because of how many buildings this building was.
Right. The history is so interesting. Going deeper into the house, the basement is said to be very haunted. There is a small hallway that leads to a mysterious room in the basement.
As basements usually have.
Right, especially something that has been reconstructed many times. I think it would make sense that there are some kind of weird rooms.
Yes.
Because the basement isn't something you would think necessarily to renovate. But it has a really interesting historical context because during the Civil War, this was a false cistern that was used to hide previously enslaved people as part of the Underground Railroad.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's a really cool aspect of this.
Yes.
I feel like it's worth the trip to go see this just to see that.
Yes, I agree.
Visitors report seeing shadow figures in this room, as well as environmental abnormalities. There are reports of hair pulling down here as well, but specifically the spirits seem to be more active when there are no men present. So this has led me to a few conclusions. First, it makes sense that the people that are hiding are appearing as shadow figures and concealing their identities.
Yes.
Second, the hair pulling is so ubiquitous throughout the house that I wonder if this has to be the same spirit.
Well, yeah, I was thinking that. I'm like, did the young child come downstairs?
Right. And the third thing is, why no men?
Is it possible that the enslaved people who were here were mostly women and children?
That is something that I thought. Perhaps this segment of the Underground Railroad tended to service women and children, and that could make sense why they didn't want to be discovered. I'm wondering if they just are more active when there's less people down there in general.
If it is a pattern and they are not responding to men, it also could be that if somebody had caught you and was pulling you back upstairs from your hiding spot, it was likely a man.
Right, like the police aren't going to be women.
Yeah.
There are more general hauntings throughout the house as well. There are reports of photographic abnormalities, EVPs, and cold spots. I'm always skeptical of cold spots in old houses. It just seems like there are so many reasons it could be caused, even in newer houses. If the HVAC unit is not perfectly balanced.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. My house gets cold in weird spots a lot based on like the wind.
Now, the photographic abnormalities, I would need to personally see them to assess them. We know that there's a lot of things that can go wrong, tricks of light, etc. EVPs, not really an explanation for that other than the paranormal.
Were you able to gather like what the EVPs were of?
No. People just report that they have EVPs. There are, interestingly, reports of caretakers closing up for the night only to return in the morning with all of the lights on. If it was one or two, I would say maybe it's faulty wiring. But all of the lights on?
I'm wondering if that's PD because they got robbed.
Yeah, that's true. Or the children, I was thinking, being like, haha.
They turn them on and they're like, I can't get this back off, so someone else is going to have to do it.
That's funny. Or they're just like, we're playing a trick on you. We're going to turn all the lights on. Because I don't think that there's anything that could be faulty in the wiring to turn all of them on.
Again, with the Historical Society having their offices in there, it kind of seems like if there was faulty electricity, they would also experience it during the day and have to fix it.
And if it was happening regularly at night and there was a way they could fix it, I'm sure they would, because that must be driving up their electric bill.
Yeah. All of the lights. I remember the one time I left my bathroom fan on for 8 hours, which for all the listeners out there, that's actually a fire hazard, so please don't do that. But I was like, I don't even want to know how this is going to affect my electric bill. And that was one day. So
Right.
I can't imagine all of the lights on multiple nights.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, a lot of times we have historical buildings that are mostly positive or mostly negative. And with this one, I really feel like it's a mix.
Yeah, I agree. If you have been to the Cheney Mansion, we would love to hear your stories. You can email the team at Haunted US and include Haunted Atlas, Cheney Mansion in the subject, or find us on social media at Haunted US. Tune in to our next episode to see where we drop the pin on our adventure across the Haunted US. This episode of Haunted Atlas was presented and researched by Sarah Sweeney and Erica Barrett. It was supported by research from Haunted US head writer Mitch Goth, with production assistance by David Sweeney and music by Colleen Johnson. Our executive producer is Brandon Rugsey. Haunted Atlas is a production of Haunted US. Visit hauntedus.com for more information.